Welcome to Transform and Thrive. I'm your host, Jessalin Lam, and this series is all about uncovering the stories of transformation, resilience, and growth that inspire us to embrace a change and thrive in our lives. So, in each episode, I sit down with trailblazers who have turned challenges into opportunities, sharing their pivotal lessons and mindset shifts that led to their transformation. Today, we have an amazing guest, Nikki Cannon. Welcome. She is the founder of Butter and Bow, an artisan gifting brand that blends luxury with intention, crafting elevated small batch gifts designed to surprise and delight. With over a decade of experience in leadership development in various industries from healthcare to tech to finance and luxury retail, Nikki has turned her passion for creating beautiful experiences into a thriving business and redefining gifting. And her journey is one of creativity, resilience, and transformation from baking thousands of cookies in a tiny New York City apartment to launching a business that makes thoughtful gifting effortless. As a busy entrepreneur and mom who still manages a 9 to 5 corporate role, she understands the challenge of finding meaningful, high quality gifts without the overwhelm. So through her company, Butter and Bow, she brings a fresh perspective to modern gifting, emphasizing storytelling, sensory experiences, and an approachable yet elevated lifestyle brand. So today, Nikki's joining us to share her journey of transformation, how she embraced change, overcame challenges, and built a business that reflects the values of intention, quality, and connection. So whether you're navigating a challenge or seeking motivation to take the next step, you'll find so much inspiration today. And let's dive in. Great. Thank
Hi,
you again for being.
Jessalyn.
Hi, happy to have you here today.
Thank you so
So
much for having me today.
let's dive into your transformation story. So, with every transformation, there is always that defining moment. What was a significant challenge or turning point in your life that sets you on this path?
Yeah. So I have thought about this so much, and I'm not sure if there was an exact defining moment or it's really been an evolution. I will say that I was born to create. I am a creative at heart. I always have to be doing something creative, as you know, and that's translated into a lot of different businesses over the last few decades. And as I really have evolved, one transformation that has really set me on this path was deciding that I needed to build a business around the lifestyle that I wanted to create for my family, for my kids, the way that I want to live my life in the most authentic way that represents me. And so that's really brought us to where we are today. We're still at the very beginning, but we're hoping to grow.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that and definitely want to continue talking about what are those challenges that you face because building something from scratch is definitely not easy. So for you to even take this path to become an entrepreneur, I would love for you to share what's one of the biggest challenge or obstacle that you have faced along the way and how did you push through it?
Yeah. It's hard to say if I've pushed through it or I'm pushing through it. And I do find it to be a daily challenge still. But creating from scratch for me is actually the easy part. A lot of times people tell me that it's hard to start. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're interested in. They don't know what they're passionate in. That part has always come really easy for me. I know that my passion is to create beautiful experiences. And whether that's hosting dinner parties or crafting a gift for someone or baking cookies or hundreds of different things that I love and enjoy, that part is easy. The hard part is the consistency, it's the operations, it's making it work with, the lifestyle that we have. So, as you know, I have two little kids who are 4 and 6. I have a full-time job still in a corporate role that has a lot of accountability and responsibility. And And I have a social life that I want to maintain and really great friends and connections that make life meaningful and other ambitions that I have. And so it's balancing that. It's finding, navigating how to make it all work with the time that I have. That is a constant challenge and something that I still struggle with every day.
Yeah, and definitely when you're talking about just making things creative, you do make that look really easy. So I've seen all the packaging and everything that you create. It's so beautiful. And you're talking about even just pushing through like the commitment or anything. I'd be curious if there's something that has helped you do that because it's something that's a work in progress. So what's helped support you to learn how to uh, navigate this challenge?
Yeah. When it comes to commitment to something, right? I've
Mhm.
always felt like I've changed or changed directions a lot of times, and maybe some people will relate. Like you feel like you have a lot of abandoned projects, and it's hard not to feel like a failure when you have that, right? And part of this is really learning about myself and really understanding what it is that I actually want to do. And seeing those as experiments rather than failures or setbacks. They're just opportunities to learn more about what we're interested in, what we want to be doing, learning what's most meaningful to us. And I think that has really set me on this path of knowing so much more about myself and knowing what I want to do.
I love that of what you just said about that these are like little experiments. So there's even like a book I recently bought called Tiny Experiments because that's important to be able to just get started. So that's a hard part for a lot of people where it's like where do you even start or even if you start, how do you continue a project? So that makes me think about when it comes to your mindset, was there like a moment when you realized that you had to think differently in order to move forward? Like what shifted for you when you thought about how did that change your approach?
Yeah. I think a lot of us have an experience with imposter syndrome and thinking that we're not good enough or that person who has been successful got there because they're different than who we are. And, there's something lacking in us that makes it so that we're not able to get there. There's also instances where I look at other people and I think, well, they've had different funding. They've come from a different family or background, or they've been encouraged a different way. And there's a lot of trauma in the way that I grew up and the challenges that I've had in my life, and from living in different countries to going to 9 different schools where there hasn't been that consistency. And then there's also other challenges like having ADHD, which I literally just discovered a few years ago through therapy and now navigating that, right? So,
Mhm.
um, speaking of which, I kind of lost where we are completely. So let me know if I'm answering your question or we need to re-navigate a little bit, but it's really
Yeah.
just a work in progress.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sharing that about your ADHD because it is when it comes to even being neurodiverse, we were talking about like the mindset shift. There's a lot of things that we have to shift the way we think about it or reframing. You talked about imposter syndrome, which a lot of us have. So that's something that is also making me think about how do we learn from failure? Like sometimes these setbacks that we experience, they teach us the most. When we're in it, it's the worst feeling in the world and it's really hard to like figure out how to get out of it. So was there a moment that felt like failure to you and in hindsight it became a really important lesson?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that when we have imposter syndrome, so going back to mindset, now that I remember we're talking about mindset, it is about trying things and starting. And when you haven't started yet, it feels like it feels maybe impossible. It feels like it's meant for someone else, right? And that you're just not there yet. But slowly as I realized, one of the biggest moments of realization is that everyone is just doing their best and nobody has the answers. I think that's really transformed the way that I think and view my opportunities and my experimentation. knowing that not no one really knows what they're doing. They're all just kind of figuring it out along
Yep.
the way helps me to feel like it's okay. And it's okay
Mm.
to
Mhm.
fail. It's okay to pivot. And it's all in that process that gets us to where we are till we meet our evolution. So speaking of failures, I have started so many businesses in my life. Like from the time that I was a child, I've been obsessed with it. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My mom, my grandma, my sister, they're all entrepreneurs, my cousins, my uncles, my dad, everyone in my life is an entrepreneur. I'm actually the only person in our family who has a corporate 9 to 5 job and has maintained that for my entire adult life. So it's the examples that I grew up with, and that's what's always inspired me. So from the time that I was little, I started, selling things here and there, having little businesses. When I was in college, I started a jewelry brand. When a little bit after college, I started teaching Mandarin on the side. I wanted to be a wedding planner. I wanted to go into consulting, which led me to get my master's in organizational psychology because I was working alongside my mom, and just seeing her navigate some of her business challenges made me really curious about what it's like to support people at work. We spend so much of our time at work that it's something that I really wanted to learn more about and to be able to help people find that happiness to thrive, not just survive at work. And I know we've talked a little bit about this before. Um, then, having worked alongside my mom in her aromatherapy and skincare business, that taught me a lot about what business looked like. And I learned and realized that I didn't know enough to be an entrepreneur at the time. So um, I started a corporate role in New York as a learning like a learning specialist where and coordinator where I coordinated trainings and supported awards and recognition at New York Presbyterian Hospital. And soon decided that I needed to do something entrepreneurial. I was baking all the time. People were looking for specialty baked goods like cupcakes and macarons. I know I knew how to do those things because I learned from my sister, who's a pastry chef. And I started my small business then and there in New York, Confections by Nikki, which is actually still my Instagram username. But doing that, it was always like a side business, something that I did on the side. I did a couple of events here and there. Then I, kind of stopped a little bit because it got a little bit more too overwhelming for my lifestyle, and baking in under 600 square feet and running a small business in under 600 square feet got a little complicated. Had kids, decided that I wanted to really think about my impact in the world. And I thought I wanted to do more around consulting. I started another business with a friend that was focused on inclusion and working with organizations to drive their business outcomes through training and development, through leadership development. And I always thought that this would be my path. This is, in so many ways, the last probably decade of my life has been really driven by this like fork in the road of, did I want to pursue the events and desserts side of my passion, or did I want to focus on the leadership development side, building retreats, employee engagement, and DEI and that side? And so it always felt like two divergent paths, and I had to choose one, and I couldn't make both work. Um, and so I tried consulting for a little bit. And through that experiment, I learned that it wasn't exactly the lifestyle that I wanted, that there was something that was pulling me through that wanted to combine both of these somehow. And that's when I started thinking about gifting and corporate gifting and swag and how much garbage is created through swag and how much of those efforts that are very expensive don't bring companies any closer to engaging and rewarding their employees in a meaningful way. So,
Mhm.
starting to combine some of my experiences, what I've learned is that that is the journey, that all of these failed businesses weren't failed businesses. They were just sort of bringing me to where I needed to be. And through this evolution, I feel so much more confident in my skills and my abilities because I've tried so many things.
I love that, and it's such a beautiful journey because from all those experiences that were like fun experiments at the time that you were curious about, it combined all your knowledge to be where you are now, and it makes you even more valuable for the business that you're creating because it's a unique way that you can think about how it all comes together. So, and you also talked about like wanting to support people and being able to help people. You take that approach of like how you can support people. So when it comes to the power of community, I would love to hear what when you're going through this journey, like who or what played a key role to supporting you during this transformation, and how important is community in your journey of growth?
Yeah. I don't think any of us could survive without community, and
Mhm.
community and people and connections are the most meaningful part of life for all of us. And for me, that's so many people, and it's also people I can be 100% myself with. I think being authentic and being values driven has been so much of what has defined my life and my journey and my path. And the people who are a part of my true community are people who know me, who believe in me, and who support me in different ways. Whether that's through encouraging me to try something new or reassuring me that I'm on the right path. Sometimes it's in the very tangible way, supporting my small business, buying from me, um,
Mhm.
writing a testimonial, telling their friends about me, telling their companies about me, and bringing me in. I mean, there are countless ways in which people around me have really rallied around me and supported me, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's also really informed why I want to do what I am doing because I love and appreciate the people around me and wanted to find a way to say thank you to them constantly. And and for me, like growing up, I don't know about you, but like I felt like I was always taught to never show up empty-handed to anything. I know you don't. You never show up empty-handed. But part of that is like always wanting to have something to give to someone, and I feel like that is also a personal struggle too because I want to gift something that's meaningful, that they'll enjoy, that they'll use, that isn't going to be thrown in a closet and becoming a burden where it's like something that can't be used and it's like junk, which we all have a lot of gifts that are junk. Um and I also had to battle my ADHD of not having a plan or strategy all the time. So gifting became very stressful and very last minute. And
Mhm.
so part of, part of my community really inspired me to also think about wanting to do something for them, turned into wanting to provide a service that helps people to gift more meaningfully and more effortlessly at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a great point with your business. You are supporting community because I think even culturally, like we're so used to gifting, where now I'm so excited that you are one of my go-to resources to use as a gift for
You?
people. And that helps support community because people are excited about what they're receiving. It builds connection together. So that's really amazing. And I'm really excited for you to continue this journey for you. And as you continue your journey, I'd also be curious to ask about how you're helping yourself thrive in the present, because as there's so many things we can be stressing out about or like things on our to-do list, we need to make sure that we have habits and daily practice. So, what is something that you do that helps you sustain your success when you to support you to continue to thrive?
Yeah, I think there are probably a ton more that I can do in this area. And I know you're a big part of that. You're the person who's constantly sending me reminders to take care of myself and to slow down. And I think that's so, so important because I I don't really have an off button that often. I struggle to relax and I just want to keep going. And one thing I know is that burnout is real. And
Hmm.
when I burn out, I'm really not in a good place. And so to be able to prevent that, it's a couple of things. It's setting really clear boundaries. So setting boundaries with my 9 to 5, right? Like not like agreeing to do what's expected of me,
Yep.
doing things to the best of my ability, but also reserving time for myself, for my family, and for my business. That's really key. And setting boundaries could also be with clients. Sometimes I've had clients who are unreasonable or who are asking me to do things that are not in my wheelhouse. And having the courage to say, no, I'd love to recommend you to someone else, or no, these are my prices. That's
Hmm.
that's something that I've had to learn over a long period of time after being burned a few times. And I think it's something that I'll continue to explore where those boundaries are and what's going to feel the best for me. Another thing is being around people, and I think I mentioned this just a little bit ago, but being around people who I can be 100% myself with.
Hmm.
I think having to building a small business is, as you know, a lot of networking, a lot of meeting people, a lot of connections, a lot of business. And, while I try to put on as authentic of an experience of me, I think sometimes there's still a little bit that we feel like we have to put on that professional mask. And around people who love us and, accept us for who we are, and you can just completely unmask yourself and just be yourself with, I think that's so healing for the soul. And so I try to surround myself in my spare time with people who who I can be 100% myself with and who they feel like they can be 100% themselves with me. So I think that's so important for that connection. Um,
Yeah, and that's really important in terms of just our presence. Our presence is a privilege for to be around, and we need to be really intentional to audit the network, supportive network around us. So it's great to hear you already do that intentionally.
yeah. Yeah, it's not always easy, but I think that it gets a lot easier when once you have kids because kids are a great excuse to get you out of anything.
I was gonna say,
Um,
or it's also because we don't have time. We're like, we have little spare time. So when we do have that time, we have to be really selective with who we're gonna spend our time with.
yeah, and really intentional with how we spend our free time, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I would say another thing that I really value is inspiration and finding time to be
Mm,
inspired is so important, not just
yeah.
for my work, because of course I'm always looking for inspiration around gifting trends or ideas on what people are looking for or how do we surprise and delight people, but
Mm,
also being inspired ourselves through, just feeding our soul. And I've always joked that I don't find a lot of inspiration from nature, like going on a hike or like going
yeah.
to see. I love it, absolutely, but I find inspiration in stores. And I know that sounds sometimes
Mm,
kind of silly and but I love beautifully crafted things. I love the thought that goes behind it, the intention, the craftsmanship, um, the artisan quality of things. And so, for me, like finding inspiration might be going shopping and going out there and going to boutiques and going into the city and going to really cool stores. And we should definitely do that sometime. nice
Sounds good.
restaurants.
Sign me up. We'll put that on the calendar. And I love that because even just making time to find something inspiring is really, I think it's healthy for you too, because there's so many things going on in the world where you're actually pausing and thinking about what can inspire you that you can integrate into your business or your life. And so that's really important. And I love that you shared because not everyone gets inspired by nature. And so you have something specific and that makes me think of even when it comes to transformation, that's personal and that's going to be subjective on each individual in terms of what is transformational to you. And so when we think about just transforming and thriving, I'm curious to hear if you had to define what thriving is in your own words, like what does that look like for you? Like what does thriving mean?
Yeah. It's this is so funny because I think about like textbook definitions when
Mm,
initially, right, when I think about thriving.
right.
And then because my background is in positive psychology, I studied flow and engagement and creativity and purpose and that's great. And I think that's why it's so ingrained and so much a part of my value system. But for each of us, thriving might be different.
Hmm.
And I recently learned this when I was speaking to my therapist, and she was like, "What's your like? What do you think about when you hear the word relax?" And I was like, "Sitting in a bathtub, reading a book." And she was like, "And does that sound relaxing to you?" And I was like, "Oh no, that sounds kind of like torture."
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't do that.
I know I would never sit in a bath and read a book. I feel like I would get antsy after like 2 minutes. And so I think it's important to define what thriving looks like for each of us. And
Mhm.
I've thought about this, and for me, thriving means living life on my own terms. It means
Oh, I
doing
love that.
things that inspire me every day. It means being able to have a values-based system in my life that I'm spending the time with people who are meaningful to me. I'm doing the projects that I find inspiring, that I find exciting. It's it's being able to feel like I have the autonomy and freedom to be as creative as I want to be and not be limited. And I think being able to do that while making a living, while being able to be there for my kids and to be present with them and to be able to travel and to have that freedom, that sounds magical. And that's what I aim
Oh,
for.
and that's what you already are living the life. So
Yeah.
you're already thriving. I know you've like recently traveled and you're doing everything that in terms of your own autonomy and making sure to take that time to even celebrate this that you're living a thriving life and even when it comes to entrepreneurs and creatives, we often don't stop to acknowledge growth and celebrate that. So how do you take that time to make sure you're celebrating yourself and all the accomplishments you've already have made so far?
Yeah. I think stepping back and taking a look, either physically or mentally,
Hmm.
is so exciting for me. Um, like as an example, sometimes I'll be baking at night or crafting at night, making a batch of something. And I love to just step back and look at all the inventory or the gift boxes that I've created and just feel so proud of what's in front of me and feel like I can't wait for these things to go and find homes where they will surprise and delight people. That is such a moment of celebration and just feeling accomplished is like that extra, I don't know, like 10 seconds, 30 seconds of before I walk away to just like
Yeah.
step back and just appreciate what's in front of me. And I love doing that. And more broadly, I think like we can do that in our lives and celebrating moments in small and big ways. Um,
Mhm.
my family, I think we instill a pretty big celebration culture. Love to bring people together and host and celebrate. I'm always looking for a reason to do that. Um, and so I think that there are certain milestones that um, once we achieve them, that I I just love celebrating with people and bringing people together to really honor the experience that is life.
That's so honor the experience. It's so amazing. And even just hearing you talk about it, I love that you already have this habit in place where you're savoring the moment before you just move on to the next task. So I think that's really important for people listening in to think about how you're savoring the moments in your life to celebrate.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
not always easy, right? There's always we're always moving at 100 miles an hour. There's so much to do. It is really hard to take that moment. But I will say that when you do, and it just has to be that 10 or 15 seconds
Mhm.
of like just stepping back and being like, that was great. I'm
Right.
happy. I feel fulfilled. I feel satisfied with my performance, or I feel satisfied with what I've created. I think that just brings me so much joy.
And I also love that you said it's like 10 seconds. So like it's not like it's going to take that much of your time. And it's a muscle that we all can build to just pause and think about what is there to be grateful for. And then it's even practicing that abundance mindset to have gratitude of what's happening in front of you.
Beautiful. Love that.
Well, to keep like the momentum going, are there any like habits or tools, resources that have been really great game changers for you that have helped you stay to continue evolving?
Yeah, I mean, we can't, I guess, the elephant in the room, right? It's ChatGPT. I think that's an incredible tool.
Yeah.
So I think having ChatGPT get to know you, and especially as an entrepreneur, help you to build your brand and your voice. Sometimes, and I think you've taught me this, is just to ask ChatGPT, say, ask me questions. And it
Mhm.
helps, ChatGPT to almost serve like like a coach where it's
Right.
asking you questions to help you dig deeper about your personal story, your storytelling, your branding, your values, what's important to you. And once it knows that, it can really transform the way that you work because from things like social media posts to copy for like an article to helping you prepare for a talk like this, it can really help to expedite that process and to help clear,
Mhm.
your thoughts because sometimes you have all of that. You just need to get it all out. And I think that's a great tool to be able to do that. The second is, I would say, understanding your strengths and where you may not be the strongest. And for me, knowing that I have ADHD, I know that, um, you know, paperwork is not my thing. And as much as I struggle through it, sometimes it's better to just ask for help. And
Mhm.
luckily, I have a support system. I have my husband who's a sometimes willing participant of paperwork. So delegating all of that to him and trusting that he's going to take care of it has been really great for me. Just knowing what my strengths are and knowing where I might struggle a bit has helped me to delegate out those tasks that aren't best suited to my strengths.
Yeah, that's great. I think from what you're sharing, it's like ChatGPT is like a really great virtual tool, like a virtual assistant to
Yeah.
help accelerate your business. And then being able to know your strengths, I think that's really great to even be able to amplify that even more to help you. And then to add to what you're saying, what I'm hearing is also knowing when to ask for help, because that's also important of like knowing your strengths and then knowing what your weakness is, so then you can delegate and ask for help to support you to keep your momentum going.
Yeah, and it's also like partnerships and community, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's not just always asking for help, but also being there for others. I feel like this is something that my mom's always taught me, which is this Chinese concept of guanxi, which is a system of reciprocity, and it's like a give and take. And I think about, like Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, and just small favors and being able to always be there for others means that they're also going to be there for you and
Mhm.
not feeling like you're alone. I think that is the biggest resource that every entrepreneur needs is that number one, you can't build something in a vacuum. You need that feedback. You need people to who are going to be honest with you and tell you, "Hey, your idea, it sucks. Sorry, it's not gonna work." Or that's amazing, and here's how you can improve it. And then you, as the entrepreneur or as a project owner or whatever your role is, you have to make that decision for yourself and take that into consideration, that feedback and knowing yourself and feeling really confident in who you are helps you to say like, yeah, that's a great idea, but maybe not right now, or that's a great idea, but it's not suited for my business or my offerings, and not falling victim to just that next idea. I think is so key. It's having a a really tight-knit community. I think that's a
Hmm.
great resource that is where there's give and take.
Yeah.
And then also having that really strong sense of conviction of your knowing your beliefs, your ideas, your strengths, and your values. I think that's so key. And so many of us wouldn't be here without without that exploration of being self-aware and working through our own personal histories through therapy or through coaching. And you're an amazing coach. And I think that so many people can benefit from your services as well.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, actually speaking about like for those who are listening who might feel stuck where it's not easy, it's great to hear your story, but then for anyone who may be stuck or like struggling to take that first step when it comes to tackling the change or challenge that they're facing right now, is there a message or a mantra that you would like to share with them today to help them or inspire them to try something new?
Yeah, I think that, you know, you just have to take the first step. None of us have the answers. We're all just figuring it out. And that is the journey. You can't be afraid of failure because then you won't start. And you may not be clear on exactly what you want to do, but to get to that clarity, you need to take action. That action drives the clarity, and the clarity drives the action. It's a process in which the more that you do, the more that you learn, the more that you experiment, the more that you try, the more that you have opportunities to succeed. And I think for me, resilience has really been the story here. I've tried so many things. I'm still trying so many things, but it's that forward outlook of I'm going to keep trying, I'm going to keep working on it, and I'm proud of what I've done that helps me to continue to grow. And it's everything, right? It's everything that we talked about here, from celebrating the successes, from leveraging your community. All of these things will help you to get to where you want to be.
That's great. And you're even just nurturing your own growth mindset because you talk a lot about the resilience where just because there's a failure or a mistake, you don't give up and you're continue to keep trying and trying something new. And that's really important that the keep going and not having it all figured out. That's also an important message because sometimes we think it has to be perfect and we're waiting for like the perfect opportunity or perfect timing. And it's like, let's just try it and see what happens. And then it could evolve from there.
That's how I ended up with two kids. Just kidding. So, but I do think that, there's no perfect timing, right? Just start.
Yeah.
Just take one step forward. What's one thing that you can do to get yourself a little bit closer to your dream
Hmm.
today? Take that action and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was such an inspiring conversation to have you here. It's a reminder for all of us that transformation begins when we embrace our challenges and really be able to learn from those setbacks that we experience. And as you said, like to take those actions to move forward. So thank you so much for joining us on Transform and Thrive. And for everyone listening, if today's episode resonated with you, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about growth and empowerment. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Jessalyn, for having me. This was wonderful.
Thanks.